Next question. Without a GMB, not a local service, only a money site, when you building our stacks with S3 and Google Drive, spreadsheet, map, PDF, where can we safely link back to the money site? One link to the money site from S3. Okay, so you're talking about from the ID page. Yeah, I do one link to the money site from S3 or an embed, but I also canonicalize the ID page to the money site. I've demonstrated this in some of the previous, I even did it on a Hump Day Hangout a few weeks ago, but I've since corrected the canonical error. An ID page can outrank a money site with very little backlinks, and actually no backlinks at all. It can. I proved this before. But I showed this on a Hump Day Hangout a few weeks ago. Maybe it was a couple of months ago now, but the main money site, I had over, I don't know, backlinks from a couple of hundred backlinks pointed to it. And then the same thing for the Google Business website, yet the ID page, because I didn't canonicalize it to the money site like I normally do, I made an error when I created the ID page, and it canonicalized to itself as opposed to the money site. And the ID page outranked both the Google Business website and the money site for the brand search. It ranked number one, the ID page did. And it was because, again, in the ID page, guys, it's a unique resource identifier that is supposed to validate entity information. That is precisely what an ID page is for, which is why an ID page can actually outrank the money site if done properly, even with no backlinks, because the Google bot goes and crawls it, verifies or validates all the entity information, and it can become the entity home if you're not careful. The entity home is what Google determines is the most important asset to that entity. Right. And so if you don't canonicalize an ID page to the money site, then the ID page could potentially become the entity home, whether you want it to or not. And so that's why I was saying an ID page is very, very powerful. It's very powerful if done well. And that's why I always like to canonicalize that to the money site, because then you can do a lot of pretty ninja stuff to an ID page and it pushes the credit to the money site. Does that make sense? So with G sites and everything else, I'm testing something right now, but I typically do an embed from a G site with the money site embedded into the G site. But I've run into some cannibalization issues recently, which typically we think of cannibalization as two pages on the same domain that are competing for each other. So Google demotes both of them in the search results. But I've actually seen recently, and this is a newer phenomenon that I've not seen before, where the G site actually is ranking and the money site is not. And it's because the money site is embedded into the G site. And if I go in and I'm testing this across a couple, I've experienced this for some of my own tree service stuff recently, and it's newer. I've not seen this before until recently. So I've gone into a couple of them and removed the embed and just put a link to the page first. And it's not been a full 3 weeks yet. So the G sites are still ranking and the money sites are not. I'm expecting for it to flip. Like, in other words, I'm expecting to see the G site drop and the money site go where the G site is in the search results right now. Because I think right now what it's doing is Google's pulling the content in from the iframe for the money site, but it's the G site's like a container. So it's ranking the container instead of the money site. If that makes sense. So you got to be careful about that. I don't have enough data. That's just a theory I'm testing right now as to why that's occurring. But I think that's what's happening is that the iframes, I've seen this occur with semantic links, what I call rebuilds, which are, we go out and hunt down domains, topically relevant, clean histories, all that kind of stuff. And I had started last year sometime last year, early part of semantic links, I was doing money site embeds in some of those rebuilds. And I saw that I started to experience where sometimes the domains that I purchased for link building purposes would outrank the money site. And it was because, again, the iframe, it was basically like, let's say the money site was in position 5 for whatever keyword. Then I build a HTML rebuild domain, clean domain, and did a money site embed. Then that a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, whatever, all of a sudden the money site is gone in position 5, but the rebuild domain is now ranked number 5. Does that make sense? And so I realized then, I was like, okay, I get what's happening here. The domain was clean and we embedded the money site that was ranked at position 5, and Google basically replaced the money site with the embed domain, which is the container basically, because it was clean and it was powerful. So Google replaced it, and the money site was still in position 5, but it was embedded. Does that make sense? And so I stopped doing money site embeds on tier 1 stuff for clients because I didn't want that to happen to clients. We don't want their money site to drop out of the search results and one of my domain rebuilds to be in place of it. I had not ever seen that before with Google sites though. Until recently, I've started seeing that with some of my tree service stuff. So that's why I said I'm testing right now to determine if that's here to stay, if iframes could potentially cause like cannibalization issues or not. I'm seeing it more often is what I'm saying. Anyway. Or is it as simple as this? Iframes within iframes within iframes across your stack that links and back and forth to each other with the money site is the original iframe. Yeah, I mean, that's what, again, I just demonstrated that over here. This is what I call the content mirroring method. If you guys take a look at this, like I've got the money site and then the next layer, I've demonstrated this before. Let me just show you guys. It's this diagram here. This is the structure that you just saw, that Louisville Metro, this right here. See this? This is the home page of the G site. And this is what I call the content mirroring method right here. All right. And that's what you're looking at in this diagram here. Right. So the money site is the source content. Then we did YouTube video. This is for no GBP. If there's a Google business profile, you insert that Google business profile right here with Google business posts between the YouTube silo. Well, they're really parallel. The YouTube silo and the Google business post silo are really on the same level. Like they're in the same column, if that makes sense. They're parallel to each other. But this would be the originating or point of origin is the money site. And then this diagram is without a GBP. But if there was a GBP, then the next layer, the first layer is a combination of Google business posts and YouTube. Then the next layer is Blogger. Then the next layer is Cloud Pages. And then ultimately the last layer is a G site. This is the overall container. It's like the Russian dolls, right? The biggest doll on the outside, you open it up, there's one just slightly smaller inside and you just keep going down. That's what this is. It's the same kind of process. And that's what you're looking at here. This is the content mirroring method. And you can see I've mirrored these pages in here. If you go take a look, the pages that I just showed on the money site, service area, Louisville, Newburgh, Okolona, Shively, Valley Station. That's those pages there. Louisville, Newburgh, Okolona, Shively, Valley Station. So go to the Valley Station mirror page. Look at this. All this is there's no content on this page, guys. It's all iframes. That's why I call it the content mirroring method, because you only develop content at one point here. Everything else is just repurposing that content over and over and over again across multiple layers, right? And when I say repurpose the content, it's just iframes. Like go take a look at it. Like this is the Blogger blog. If I open that up, this is the Blogger. Let's go into the Valley Station post. This is the post right here. Take a look at this. All this is the YouTube video and the embedded Valley Station money site page. That's it. It's again, going back to this diagram. You guys see that? It's the location page and the YouTube video. I was just looking at Blogger. We were down here, this post here in Blogger. Okay, so the Blogger is just a container for those two items. Then in the Cloud page, we do a couple of other interesting things. And again, I teach this in the mastermind. But in the Cloud page, that's this right here. If we open this up in a new tab, you'll see here we got, again, YouTube video embedded, but this is not just a video, it's a playlist embed. Okay, so there's a YouTube silo behind this. Then below that, we've got, what do we got? Valley Station, Kentucky Wikipedia page, Tree Care Service, or that's the Tree Care Wikipedia page. Then what do we have here? The first embed is the Blogger post. Then below that, what do we have? We've got 4 content sections for each of the 4 services. Tree removal, tree trimming, land clearing, stump grinding. Then below that, we have just a generic map embed because this is a no GBP project. And you guys can see that. And then ultimately, at the end, we have the Google site, which is just a container for all of that. Right? No additional content needed. All the content was developed on the money site at page 1, right here. So